The next form that I would like to introduce or discuss is the VA Form 21-8940. This is the veteran's application for increased compensation based on unemployability. This can be very challenging. I guess it's important to understand that unemployability, as far as the VA is concerned, based on my understanding, is based on the fact that the veteran is either medically and or psychologically unable to perform gainful employment. So it's not based on the fact that an individual is strictly out of work. It is based on the fact that either physically or psychologically they're unable to perform gainful employment, and that's important to understand. At any rate, the form to qualify for what I call individual unemployability, you have to have a certain combination of ratings that add up to 60, 70, 80, 90. And I don't want to spend a lot of time going into that. That's pretty explanatory within the VA system. But you do need to understand what this is based on, or a veteran needs to understand what this is based on. Now, obviously, the top of the form is rather, again, self-explanatory. They ask for name, rank, and serial number, which I've kind of gone over before. But then when you get to 8, they ask what service-connected disability prevents you from securing or following any substantially gainful occupation. That's where I believe you would want to list your breakdown of what your ratings are, assuming you have the discussion that I talked about. In Section 9, if you've been under a doctor's care and or hospitalized within the past 12 months, that's a yes or no. You would put the dates, or if it's present, you just put present. Item under Block 11, you provide the name and address of any treating physicians or doctors or clinics that you're being treated, and then the name and address of the hospital under Item 12 that you've been treated at or getting treatment from. Then we move to Section 3. Section 3 wants your employment statement. They want to know your date disability affected full-time employment. Now, if you're retired, you probably want to put your retirement date in there. The date you last worked full-time and the date you became too disabled to work. Typically, your date your disability affected full-time and the date your time should become pretty much the same. I'm just generally speaking. They want to know what is the most you ever earned in 1 year, and then in what year, and then your occupation during that year. Now, moving to page 2 on that form, again at the top, you're required to provide your Social Security number. This is important. Section 3, the employment statement. Okay, you must list all employment, including self-employment, for the last 5 years you worked. I'm going to repeat that. List all your employment, including self-employment, for the last 5 years you worked. That doesn't mean for the last 5 years if you've been retired for 3 years. It means for the last 5 years that you actually worked. You need to provide the name and address of the employer. I would also include the phone number, the type of work, the hours worked per week, the dates of employment, any time lost from illness, and your highest gross earnings per month during that period, that 5-year period. I could go through this block by block, but they're going to ask questions about whether you're in the National Guard. They want to know if you've earned any earned income in the last 12 months, which then they want to know if you left your last job. Was it because of disability? Are you collecting workers' compensation? Obviously, you cannot collect workers' compensation and individual unemployability through the VA, just to let you know. This should have no effect on your Social Security. If you're collecting Social Security benefits, that would not affect this award from the benefit. This is a tax-free award. Let me explain it. What unemployability does is it awards a veteran 100% compensation, which at the present time is in excess of $3,200 per month, tax-free, and if there's dependents, you get additional money. And again, that's tax-free, but you still maintain your 70, 80, or 90% rating. But it also entitles you to all the benefits that a 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran receives: full dental, eye care, dermatology, any specialist, et cetera, et cetera. So that's important. I mean, dental, in my own case, dental was very important. And I just want to mention that as far as that's concerned. Now, I'm also going to caution veterans that, because I've had a lot of experience with this, it is the veteran's responsibility to make sure that a former employer responds to an inquiry by the VA to adjudicate this claim, to verify the employment that they're asking for. What happens is, if the former employer does not respond, you will be notified by mail that they can't reach that information, and they, for lack of a better word, they invite you to contact that employer to be responsive to the VA to verify that employment. That does seem to be a stumbling block with this. It is the veteran's responsibility to make sure that any previous employers that he was involved in supports the actual dates of employment. You move to page 3. There is an opportunity to put remarks in there as to why you're filing for individual unemployability. And I mean, again, you want to rough draft that out. It has to be brief, concise, and to the point. In block 27, you sign your name and then the date. And this needs to be accompanied by a 21-526 EZ, where you're, on page 2, you would file for what I call individual unemployability. Now, also, to further support individual unemployability, I think it's advisable that if you can get your medical provider, whether it be physical or psychological, to agree and to put in correspondence form that you're not capable of performing gainful employment, I think that goes a long way in further supporting this type of claim. Just because you have certain ratings and you meet what I call the rating criteria based on based on what's going on now, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to qualify for individual unemployability. I would recommend that you get a medical provider, whether it be for psychological and/or physical, to agree that you're unable to perform gainful employment. That's just a word of advice regarding this particular form, and if you're going to file for it. Thank you very much.